I don't have a favorite. That's a good one, man. I don't know, man.
That's how we all learned how to do stuff back then, by copying somebody else that did it already, you know. There wasn't magazines that, you know, or internet you could do, so you had to do a lot of research, you know, a lot of collaborating, like writing letters to people and asking them to see their work and things like that. There's one Japanese artist named Oguri that used to be able to write to him, and he would send you photographs, you know, and you could send him photographs. And, you know, he would just send these photographs. And he'd have like an embosser. They'd be embossed with his like crest on them. But I mean, the photographs would just be like dragons and phoenix and just amazing stuff. You know, it was like, wow. And that's sort of how we started learning to draw, is through guys like him, you know. My name is Greg James. I'm a tattoo artist. I live in Sherman Oaks, California, where my tattoo shop is, Tattoos Deluxe. I always liked to draw, so I was always drawing, but, you know, I didn't think about tattooing, you know. I was always fascinated by it. You know, my brother being, you know, 11 years older than me, you know, he started coming home with tattoos when I was a little kid, so I was really, like, into that. Like, thought that was pretty cool, you know. So I think the spark was the fire was lit like way young, you know, with the whole tattoo thing. My parents were moving from Illinois to Arizona, so they put me on a bus to go live with my brother for a while. I was about 14, going on 15, and the first thing he did is show me how to make needles, you know, and to put machines together, you know. So I was sort of learning then, and then, you know, I went on to, you know, to try to finish high school, and then I decided to come back out here when I was 20. And I learned from my brother and started tattooing then. I mean, there wasn't like a formal apprentice. I mean, like I said, you know, hanging around for a while when I was a kid, you know, I started learning things, and you know, basically he just put, you know, some machines in my hand, and then we grabbed a wino off the street, and I just tattooed him for like 2-3 days, and just, that was it. I was ready to go, you know. He spent a lot of time, you know, tracing the designs, you know, and we used to have to cut stencils back then, so there was a lot of tracing and hand engraving these plastic stencils that we used, you know, to put the transfers on. So there was a lot of that, you know, a lot of tracing.
There is no more artisticness, or a word that is supposed to be there. There isn't more of it. It's getting exposed now, and people getting recognition for it. And people have always been fucking around with art, doing this, fiddling around with that. But now, because of cell phones and computers and all that shit, and this shit, more people are seeing what people are doing, and that's giving those people more incentive to do what they do. So people are able to progress further in whatever it is that they're doing, you know, motorcycle building, tattooing, painting, whatever, prostitution. They're able to do it more and take it more serious because there's an outlet and possibly make a few bucks out of it, and people will help support what they do. So that's a strong thing on the plus side.
Greg's a dedicated guy, very humble, very kind. I put him right at the top of my group of what I think a tattooist should be. I knew his brother Tennessee Dave real well. He passed a couple years ago from cancer. I bought a lot of his designs off of Greg. Yeah, Greg used to come here every year and stay a couple of weeks with me. I go out there, I'm tattooed by Greg, my son's tattooed by Greg, my wife's tattooed by Greg. Don't get any better.
It was, you know, tattoos were fairly cheap. I mean, we were doing the Little Red Devil for, I think it was like $5, and if you wanted a name with it, it was another $1, so it was $6. Your average tattoo was maybe $6 to $14, $15. And my brother worked, actually the shop was open 24 hours. He worked from 10 o'clock until 8 or 9 in the morning. So it was really strange because 10 o'clock till like 2, 3 in the morning. They, especially on the weekends, they'd be really busy, just one after another, and then nothing, and sometimes not much during the week. But it's just the shop was downtown LA. Was the only shop around. We had the USO. We had the buses coming from Pendleton for the guys going to Hollywood and stuff. You know, from Marine Corps base and the Navy bases. They're all coming up to Hollywood, and so, you know, on the 1st and the 15th, they call Mother's Day, when all those motherfuckers got their paychecks. We were busy, you know, like cranking them out. So, yeah, it was interesting times. I mean, there was no, everybody had machines set up, like, you know, you had a liner, a shader, and another shader, and another liner, and, you know, everything was in these little test tubes of disinfectant, and all the stations had sinks with like super hot water that you rinsed your machines out, and that was considered state of the art there. Didn't seem to have any problems. Health department come around, but they didn't seem to have any issues, and that's how they worked. I mean, they were still working out of capfuls of ink, like, you know, little jars of ink then. That was that was up into the 60s, you know. Everything was traditional, what they call traditional nowadays. I mean, that's what tattoos look like when I started tattooing. I mean, all this stuff, like, each shop kind of had their own version of the Sailor Jerry designs, because everybody considered him to be the best at drawing the girls, and so everybody tried to copy his stuff, you know. The guy would come in from Hawaii with a Sailor Jerry tattoo. You grabbed your tracing paper and traced it off his arm. Say, thanks, man, you know, and then now you got a new design sheet going, you know. But that's what it was. It wasn't called traditional. That's just what tattoos look like. And, you know, guys come in and say, oh, I have a dream. And you say, yeah, well, I got a fucking headache. Hit the road, man, you know, because if you don't see it on the wall, we ain't doing it, you know.
I know who Greg is. Never met him. In my opinion, another icon in the tattoo world. An amazing stateside artist who's responsible for bridging that gap between, you know, being an American artist who does amazing Japanese work, you know.
People started talking about the artistic thing of tattooing, and you know, like people like Ed Hardy and Cliff Raven were really innovating and sort of really bringing that around, you know, sort of opening that up to people's imagination of, you know, what tattooing could be and making it more profession. That's kind of where all that started from. I was still pretty young then, you know, just kind of getting into it.
Is that what exposed you to Japanese stuff?
Yeah, that and working at the Pike, you know, when I first started tattooing, I worked downtown with my brother, and we used to go, but on the weekends we'd work downtown during the day and then work Long Beach at night. We'd work like double shifts, you know. And guys would come in like from, you know, like Merchant Sailor would come in with all this really nice work, like from Japan or something. We're just like, oh man, that's what tattoos look like. You know, because, I mean, a guy could be standing over there and you can see he's got a big dragon on his back or something. Like, you're like, fuck, man, that's what tattoos should look like, you know? Yeah. And that's what really got me interested in that. And I started following Cliff Raven's work and Ed Hardy's work, and they were sort of bringing that Japanese style to, you know, America, and like Americanizing it. Cliff Raven was, he was just sort of a genius, you know. He had a really high IQ. He started tattooing in Chicago, opened up the Chicago Tattooing Company. He sold some supplies. He invested some money. He opened up one of the first, I guess you'd call it, gay, I don't know if it was a nightclub or bathhouse or a combination of both, but he sort of invested in that and got that going. He had an art degree. This very clever artist, really loved tattooing, and he just sort of innovating a lot of stuff that we take for granted nowadays, like the graphic design of tattooing, the black graphic. He looked at Polynesian tattooing and said, well, we can do sort of American version of that and sort of make that, something. His whole thought was he knew what tattoos looked like when they got old, so his thought was to take a lot of the detail out of the tattoos and just put in what was necessary, to make the image like powerful and strong. So he was very innovative with that. He was gay, but kind of a manly man kind of gay. Like if you walked in, like he wouldn't be all like wearing a feather boa or something, just like just a regular dude. Everybody, all the good tattooers knew him and respected his work. And yeah, he just, man, when I started seeing his work, that was it, and that's the guy I wanted to work for, because I figured, well, the best way to learn is to go there and work there.
Granger's a bad motherfucker.
Some funny shit back then, though, right, Rich?
Yeah, well, it's different than today, right? I guess there's funny
It's way
today.
different. Yeah, but it was cool. It's cool. It's cool now, but it was really different back then. And there wasn't that many motorcycles. Like everybody, if you had like a chopper, everybody knew everybody. Everybody knew everybody, man. Like when in Mattawan, there's only like 3 or 4 people that had motorcycles, and I distinctly remember that.
And
like now, everybody has bikes.
Now, do you think if everybody rode the bikes of your day back then today, there'd be as many people riding as there are not now?
No.
Nah.
No way, right?
No way.
No.
No way.
I mean, it was it was a lot harder.
We were
'cause
talking about that the other day.
you're always working on stuff, but everybody helped each other out. You call you up like if you call me one night, hey, man, I need this, and I've done that plenty of times. People call me up like, dude, I need a clutch hub, I need this, I need,
Cliff Raven hired me at Sunset in 1985. I decided to, with some coaching from a good friend of mine, he said, if you really want to do this kind of work, you should just go try. And I was kind of intimidated, and didn't think, my craft was good enough. And then after actually talking to Cliff and he's looking through my portfolio, he said, yeah, you could use some drawing lessons, but your craft is definitely there. Like, you can do the tattoos. So he kind of took me in, and and then his partner at the time, Robert Benedetti, was a major influence as well. He's the one that actually helped me just get down on the drawing board and start drawing this stuff, teaching me how to draw it. And he just said, if you got to learn how to draw it, do it, and lay it out. And Cliff taught me how to draw on skin, so I just use a Q-tip and a paintbrush and just draw it right on the skin. Well, when I first went there in '85, we had this little bit of an AIDS scare. People weren't getting tattooed for a while. And fortunately, being the location that we were in, we started tattooing all the rock and rollers. We started tattooing, Robert mostly, tattooed Ozzy Osbourne, and then we tattooed the Motley Crue guys, and that really just started rolling. I mean, all the rockers wanted to get tattoos, and the public became aware that you couldn't get HIV from a tattoo, especially with the methods we were using. Everything was single service and sterile. We were wearing gloves then. Everything was on the up and up, and that's what really took off. I mean, all these rockers wanted to get like sleeve done, and that was the beginning of that. About once a year, I get a little fun thing. My latest tattoo is the Wandering Asshole. This is one of my brother's favorite little tattoos. Where'd it go? Oh, there he is. See, I'm the president of the club, the Wandering Asshole Club, because I have gold shoes. Everybody else has red shoes, so that makes me the president. But yeah, just the old Wandering Asshole.
I guess my favorite thing about what's going on with tattooing now is that you're starting to see traditional work come back into play, where it was tribal armbands and Chinese characters and whatnot, and now people are starting to get the more traditional Coleman style tattoos, the older style tattoos. And I think that's just a matter of history repeating itself. So that's probably my favorite part of what's coming back.
Pete, go back to LA.